I'm going on a trip on Wednesday. I'm going on a
Yeah.
big trip and I'm for 2 weeks and I'm like trying to get all my editing done. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
this is taking way longer than I thought it was going to. So I'm just trying to like barrel through it,
Oh, you
but
got to
it's
get it
fine.
done. You gotta have to sit down and just like lock in. I don't know. Do you typically edit? Do you always have like music going and everything while you're grinding?
It depends. Sometimes it's music, sometimes it's like a show that I've seen because I can't watch like a new movie or a new TV show. It has to be something that I've seen before, just so
Sure.
it's like background noise, you know?
Exactly.
But it just really depends. And sometimes I just edit in silence if I'm just like really, really like, okay, I need to focus. I don't
I
need to be
was
watching
I was
some
telling my
random.
I was telling my sister this. Sometimes I have these like I have like the noise canceling AirPods and sometimes
Yeah.
I'll just wear them without playing any music at all. And I'll just like have
Yes.
the noise canceling in and like I'll be walking around and like people will think I'm listening to music and I'm just like, all right.
Yep, and nothing. I know. I also have the Bose noise canceling headphones
That's
when I
next
really
level.
need like a lot of just peace and quiet. I just need
Yeah,
like white noise in my ears.
I love
Especially
it.
like the dogs are barking and there's like stuff going on in the neighborhood and like
Sure.
kids are walking by and all the things and I'm
You
like,
gotta
guys,
shut
I
all
just
that
need you
nonsense out.
like mom has just got to work, okay? How was your week? Because it seems like you've had a lot of new
Oh
clients,
man,
like
yeah.
busy.
Yeah, yeah, thankfully, I mean, basically my goal has been with Wagworks to I mean, there's a lot of different irons in the fire, but I was like, one thing I want to do, I want to get myself booked out. Like, I want to get myself where at least I am, and then I can, my dad is the self-proclaimed VP of marketing. He just wants me to put up posters. I'm like, Dad, that didn't do anything, but he's like,
Yeah.
he's asking like, we need to, you need to hire more people and you need to get more people, which he's totally right. But like, with doing and you can speak to this way more than I can, but social media is a job in of itself. You know what I mean? And so like with doing like the editing and the posting, and I just started two new accounts with the Wagworks Cares and the Wag Pod just to
Mm-hmm.
continue to build that
Mm-hmm.
portfolio. I'm a busy boy, and so it's
Yeah.
been really nice. I mean, word of mouth. On the weeks that basically I try to be booked out, like I said, a majority of
Yeah.
the time. But my parents will have me walk their dogs. If it's not the neighbor, it might as well be me. But I have two new clients in the neighborhood who I'm walking their dogs, and they're
That's
both like golden
awesome.
retrievers. I walk them together, and so like that kind of stuff, that's been great. And then just people out of nowhere, they've started DMing, or like they're like, hey, like I have a friend who needs, and that's great. My
Yeah.
goal was to book myself out, but I'll say like
Mm-hmm.
yesterday I went over to yeah, I was like between jobs in the like Reynolds area or like Renolda Village. I don't know. I know you kind of know Winston-ish,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, all right, I'm gonna go. It's $3 drafts at Barnola, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna have a couple of beers while I work. And I was just getting more requests, but yes, ultimately things have been good. I'm happy. I'm doing what I
Yeah.
like. And I don't know. I that pivots kind of into what you have going on. I know we need to introduce you as Joanne Wetzel. Is that right?
Yes. Yep. You got it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Pronounced it correctly. I didn't know if it's Wetzel or Wetzel, and I was like, all right, we're gonna take a gander, flip of a coin.
We've gotten some interesting names. Yeah. People just add letters, remove letters, say whatever they want. And
You ever get pretzel?
yes, because it's the literal name of the Wetzel's Pretzels company, which we have no affiliation to,
Oh, but you
unfortunately. But
could. That's a good collab for down the
there's a
line.
lot of Wetzels. There
Isn't that
are,
why you're doing what you want to doing right now? Just so you can collab with Wetzel's Pretzels?
yeah. Like, how can we work alongside a pet photographer? What could this
Of course.
collaboration look like?
Of course. Yeah. So you're the founder owner of Five Freedoms Photography,
Yes.
and you've been in the Raleigh area for a while, and you weren't originally in the pet industry. So do you want to kind of jump in and give us a little bit behind the scenes?
Oh my gosh. Man, I don't even know where to start, honestly. So I am a serial entrepreneur as well. This is not my first business. I
Nice.
actually
I
found
like that
myself
term, by the way, serial
serial
entrepreneur.
entrepreneur. Yeah, because I feel like once you work for yourself, it's real hard
Like I
to go
really want
back.
to keep doing that. Yeah,
Yes,
in
yeah.
different
Well,
ways.
you have the flexibility, you have like you can see the direct result of like all of your efforts versus working for someone else. You're like,
Of
okay, this is what
course.
you get paid for your hourly, and
Right.
you're
And
just
you're
kind of like,
also helping your own brand, like
yes,
whether, with you, like everything you do, whether it's collaborations, like you're doing kind of, volunteering, free photography, it's all helping your overall
yes,
business, which is sick. But anyways,
yeah.
yeah, so you started in entertainment, is that right?
Yes. So back in 2017, I'd been doing hair and makeup freelance for about 6 years.
Nice.
And, I did commercial work. I did boudoir, headshots. I mean, like weddings, all the things, you name it.
Everything.
I probably did hair and makeup for it.
Sure.
And it was a really, I don't know, after you're doing it for such a long time, it just became like, as I'm getting older, it just felt like a very shallow and kind of vapid industry to be
Sure.
in. And I wanted something that I felt like had a little bit more of like a giving back, purposeful,
Right.
meaningful kind of thing. And anyway, so I was at the point in that business where I really needed to scale it. And
Hmm.
I couldn't, that's not the future that I had foreseen for myself. And I was like, you know what, I'm
Right.
just going to close the business. I was feeling really burnt out and
Yeah.
I found myself with a lot of free time before I kind of figured out what my next steps were. And a friend of mine, she was a volunteer. She was fostering for our local shelter. And she was like, hey, they're always looking for volunteers to walk dogs, cuddle dogs, take photos of the cats, write bios, like all these different things. I was like, wow, how have I never heard of that before? That actually sounds really cool. It's something that
Yeah.
I'd really like to do.
And you
And
had a dog at the time when you were doing this.
yes, I had two. I had two
Okay.
rescue dogs. Yeah. And so I was like, well, let me just go check it out. So I went to, you've got to do an orientation. First you have to apply, do the orientation, and then you have to do like a certain number of hours or whatever before you can become like an official volunteer.
Oh
And
wow.
I
Okay.
and I loved it. And I was like walking through the kennels one day and I was walking this insane puppy and I was like, this is great. How can I do more of this? How can I get involved? But the thing that I noticed throughout that time was that, the dogs didn't really have great photos. And,
Sure.
at your intake shelter, your county shelter, so many animals come through. The staff don't have
Oh
time to sit there
yeah.
and take meaningful photos of every single
Right.
animal
They're not,
that
and they're
walks through the
not
door.
posed, and they're not. Do
It's
you
literally,
remember
yes. Yeah, go
a
ahead.
quick tangent? Do you remember the? I don't know if it was during the Super Bowl, but there were those commercials and the whole kind of thing where it was shot on iPhone, and they did a bunch of like commercials with that. I don't know if you know what I'm talking
I
about.
don't think so. No,
I
I
don't
don't
know. It
remember
was just these
this.
like cute videos, like them portraying how iPhones have such good cameras. But the point
Yeah.
is like, I don't think it works like that. I think you need actual professional pictures.
People who know what they're doing also
Yeah.
definitely makes a difference. Like you can
Yeah.
have a nice iPhone, but I tell you, I see a lot of people who have nice iPhones that take photos of some of these adoptable animals and it's just not their strong
It
suit. And
makes
there's
them less
nothing,
adoptable.
yeah, exactly. There's nothing wrong with that.
Like, why is this
So
dog blurry? Is it like that in real life?
yes, exactly. That's like the biggest struggle that I hear that people have, but that's another conversation
For sure.
entirely. But yeah, so I don't know, about 2 years in, I'd been volunteering, I'd been, doing outreach and social media and marketing and walking dogs, and I just really fell in love with it. And I was like, what else could I do? And again, the animals didn't have really great photos. And at the time, we had this amazing older couple that came in every Wednesday and they took photos of 8 dogs. And like that was like, but that's only 8 dogs every week. So I
And
said, well, let me
it's
buy.
an older couple with, they're
Yeah.
trying to be nice. There's a technology gap potentially there, right?
Yeah, and I mean, they did a great job considering, right? Like
Sure.
they were just using an old school camera. They were not professional pet photographers.
Yeah.
Like they just did the best they could. But they had a really good system down. They just needed someone to come in and like help supplement what they were already doing. And so I
Right.
was like, well, let me buy a camera. Went to Wick Technical Community College for a
Mhm.
semester on photography,
Oh,
and
cool.
yeah, and which funny at the time, it's like everything that I learned, I'm like, none of this really helped me with pet photography because
Huh.
a lot of photographers joke that if you start photographing like animals or sports or anything that's in like fast motion, it is the
Mhm.
hardest kind of photography that you
Oh,
can
I'm
start with.
sure.
And especially animals, because animals are incredibly unpredictable. And so I was like, cool, I chose the hardest possible thing to photograph. It's fine. We'll
Yeah.
figure it out. So yeah, so I started photographing dogs at the shelter, and that was kind of the start of all of this. And I
And
really
when was
wanted,
that? So I know you stopped doing your
yes,
previous job before in
2017
2017.
was when I stopped doing hair and makeup and when I closed that business. And I still did it a little bit on the side freelance through 2018. And then 2019, I think, is when I bought the camera and really started at the end of that year, started taking photos of the adoptable dogs. And
Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course 2020 hit, and so the shelter was closed for a little while, so I wasn't able to volunteer at all, and that was really hard because you're like, I just want to go do something and I can't do it, go anywhere or do anything. And then 2021 is really when now that like as things were starting to open up again, and of course, like when we're at the shelter, we're dealing with the animals and we're not really dealing with other people. So we were able to like limit how many volunteers were there and like keep
Yeah.
our social distancing and all that. So it was actually kind of nice that we
Sure,
were able
because
still to
COVID
go.
didn't pass from animals to people too, right? Unless it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. I think that they were saying that there was some kind of correlation with it, but that I don't know, it wasn't like directly linked, but it could have. I don't know.
right.
It's yeah,
That's
who knows?
science. We're not in
Yes,
that
exactly.
business. You know,
We're
we
not.
can stick to pets. That's
That's
what we
right. That's right. Yeah.
have. That's awesome. And so from there, I mean, you started to, I know you started to do photography for the rescues itself, but then that kind of turned into, private clients on the side.
Yeah, yeah. So like I said, started photographing some of the adoptable dogs, both at the shelter and then working with local rescues. And just kind of along the way, I wanted to get more practice working with like pets and people. And then I started taking private clients just with like volunteer friends. And then
Yeah,
it just kind of continued to snowball from there. And I don't know that I ever like set out to be a photographer that was like, I want to take
absolutely.
private clients and I want to do this like professionally and become offer artwork and all these different things. But I don't know. I love capturing the bond between pets and their people and seeing the love that these animals have for their human guardians and vice versa, and just those relationships and seeing how they interact and how they engage and how they. I mean, it's just so beautiful on camera. It's absolutely stunning on camera. And
Well, I
then
mean, your pictures are
allowing,
stunning as well,
yeah,
I've loved it. I was hyping up your media kit. I was like, wow, that is
yeah.
incredible. And your Instagram, like it's just you're good at what you do, you know?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. It's so nice to hear that too. Sometimes, it's like, especially when you're the person behind the scenes and you're
Yeah.
doing all the, like we were just talking about, you're doing all the work and the
Yeah.
putting out the content and like just
I won't tell
creating things.
anyone that you Venmo me $20 to say that, but
Yeah.
that's no, it's
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's really cool. I love what I do. And I think having all of the background in working with these shelter animals and working with all different types of dogs from different ages and breeds and sizes and things like that. Like I have been a student of dog body language and behavior since I started. And it's really important to me that when I'm working either with a rescue dog or I'm working with a client's dog, that like they feel happy, they feel safe, they don't feel like they're being forced or pressured to do things. Because I've definitely been on set and seen other photo shoots where the dog is being forced into position and is not enjoying themselves. And so
yeah.
I always tell clients, like, for me, most importantly, your dog is going to have fun. They're going to do things they love to do. And then the photos are literally just going to be the icing on the cake.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So when I mean, I try to analogize a lot of things. I don't know, is that a word? Analogize?
I don't know, but you just, yeah, now it's
That's
going
cool.
to
I'm gonna
be.
roll with it. But anyways, when I'm doing pet care, it's always important for me to do a meet and greet or introductory meeting before, because oftentimes you see that pets are really comfortable with their parents, of course.
Yeah,
And I was taking care of the sweetest German Shepherd puppy is at about a year old, and the first time I met him, I mean, certain breeds are going to be more guard dog like. But the first time
yeah,
I met him, kind of jumped up, wasn't sure. And then, I went over. It's my buddy. But it's important for me to meet the dogs with their owners before. Is
yeah.
that something that, you necessarily do, or how do you kind of go around that? I'm very curious about that.
Yeah, so typically, I mean, for most clients, we don't do any kind of meet and greet. I
Yeah,
usually will
and that
have,
makes sense. And I'll say that's not
yeah,
not good or bad, but like for me
sorry.
staying over.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't typically do that. However, if a client has an animal, has a dog that is like a little bit more stranger danger or maybe a little bit more anxious or, whatever the case is, then I do offer that as a service. And I have done that in the past for some clients who maybe just need a little bit more reassurance. Like this is actually a perfect example. I had a client dog recently that she was like terrified of the camera and the client was really worried. She said, Mocha like really shuts down every single
What a
time I pull
great
out my
name.
camera. Yeah, I
What a
know.
great name.
Every single time that I like bring up the camera, and I'm just worried that like she's not gonna do well at a photo shoot. So we ended up having a meet and greet. We actually met at a sniff spot, which was perfect. And within like
What's a
40,
sniff spot?
Have you not heard of Sniff Spot?
I have not
Okay.
heard of Sniff Spot.
This is totally up your alley. It's kind of like the Airbnb for dogs where
Huh.
you can rent yards. Like people
Huh.
put up their yards for like for instance, we have a half acre fenced in. So
Right.
we could create a sniff spot and people could rent our yard to bring their
So you
dogs.
can
And it's
make money
really
off that versus the signs that say "Don't let your dog poop here," which no one can control anyways. But
yeah,
whatever,
I know. Exactly. And
know.
so it's a great way for people to like monetize their space and their land, but it also gives the opportunity for people who have maybe just apartments, they don't have yards, and or they have really reactive dogs. Like I have a very reactive dog, and I can't always take her on like popular trails. So it's nice to be able to take her to new places that are controlled. Like I rent it, and so there's no other dog there. There are no other
That's
typically
cool.
pets and things. Yeah, so it's really neat.
What
So
a
I highly
fantastic
recommend it.
idea. Huh.
Yeah, I know. It's a really, really cool idea. And depending on where you are, I mean, some of these are sniff spots have like acres and acres of land, and some of them are just like a fenced in yard. You know, it really just depends. But anybody who's listening who has not checked out sniff spots, highly, highly recommend it.
I might
If for
check it
nothing
out.
more than,
I might rent it for myself and put my AirPods in with no music and walk
yeah,
around.
yes. I mean, you could do that too. I mean, and it's, I think, just great to give your dog a different place to go. Like, especially if
100%.
again, live in an apartment or a townhome or a space where you don't have a lot of like nature around you and you want to just have like an
Yeah.
afternoon,
And you
just
do the
sitting
same
and enjoying.
walks. It's the dogs are as
Yes.
interested in exploring as you are,
Exactly.
actually.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, where were we? Oh, Mocha. Okay. I was like, we got deviated from the
I always
um
deviate. I'll always come in a little bit. That's on me. But I like to, I gotta ask questions.
No, it's all good. I love sharing about Sniff Spot. So anytime
Yeah.
I get a chance to talk about it, that's great. But after about 45 minutes when we were at the Sniff Spot, Mocha like didn't care about the camera anymore. And then I've seen her since then, like at different events and pop-up photo booths and things like that. And when we finally had our session together, she did not care. She was
Yeah.
just like throwing her toy up in the air and running around and just having a ball. And that for me was like the best experience we could have had based on what our initial meeting was, where she was just like,
Absolutely.
I
Yeah. She's like,
don't want
what's
to have
going
anything
on?
to do with the camera. So all that to say, in a very long story short,
Sure.
is that I do offer that service if a client feels like their dog might need a little bit more time just to kind of get to know me and get to know the camera.
Yeah, and that's great. But then on top of that, you're certified to as a dog trainer as well, right? Which,
Yeah,
and we had discussed this before, and I've talked about this like with other trainers, certification necessarily doesn't mean that like you'll automatically be able to dog whisper to every dog, but
yeah,
the experience you've had along with that certification, I feel like just seeing those letters that provides at least employee or clients a sense of comfort.
right.
And I think having that, but then also your experience with everything just kind of goes along, and you were able to pose them in different ways and make them feel comfortable, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I'm probably a little bit of a unique bird, I guess, in that in sometimes I just let the dog pose themselves. I don't necessarily like again, if I just see them move in a certain way and they stop for a moment and I'm like, "Oh, I love that." Like I just
Yeah,
get the shot. I'm not like, "Okay, we need to set up, we need to put them here and then they need to stand this way." And sometimes I do, obviously, but for the most part, I do try as much as I can. And it also depends on the location that we're at. If we're like, in just a wide open field, yeah, I'm just going to let them frolic and romp and
of
play.
course.
If we're more in a more urban location and I have to avoid like buses and signs and trash cans and other people, well, then I kind of have to pose them a little bit more because I have to maneuver around all of these distractions and things that I'm trying to avoid on camera. So
Yeah.
I do like to pose them and I work with every client. I create a shot list. We have a planning call. I have a questionnaire. So we literally will go through and say, hey, what do you want from your session? Like, I'm going to photograph a lot of variety, but what's most important to you? Is it the family photo? Is it your dog's action shots? Is it detail shots of like their eyes, their ears, their face? Is it, moments where you guys aren't really looking at the camera and you're just kind of engaging with each other? Is it them, playing with a tennis ball or digging in the dirt? Like, what does that look like for you? And I have find that for every single client, it's very different and very unique. And so I'm not going to just like, if you don't want family portraits of you smiling, looking at the camera, I'm not going to photograph that. Do you
Exactly.
know what I mean? I'm not going to
Yeah.
waste my time.
Well, it's got to be, same as, and I relate, AKA analogize to,
Yeah.
this, but every pet is different. and
Hmm.
every pet parent is different, and people have different things they're interested in. And, obviously a dog is unable to communicate for themselves in the sense of like actually being able to talk to you. And so
Yeah.
being able to be adjustable and adaptable to different situations, I mean, that just kind of makes you more in demand, and it speaks to your ability to converse with clients, which I think in the pet industry, no matter what you're doing, that's the most important thing. If you are, even if you're great with pets, but you come over and you're like just not great at talking to the people, and they're like kind of
Yeah.
like, it's hard. It's a hard sell, you know?
Yeah. You hit on a really important point there, and I think it's all about being adaptable. And I think a lot of times people will make promises of like, oh, sure, we can get X, Y, and Z. And it's like when I'm talking to my clients, the first thing that I say to them is don't have expectations. Your dog is not going to behave how they are at home because they're not at home. We're at some exciting park, and I'm a new person, and my assistant's a new person, and we have cheese, and we have, fancy
Yeah,
toys and all these
geez.
different things.
Bring the
So they're going to
charcuterie
be
board with you.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
awesome.
Here you are. Yeah. So they're going to be really excited, and they're probably going to jump on us, and they're probably going to like bark at other dogs or whatever. It's totally fine. So I just tell them, like, hey, don't have any expectations. How they're going to behave is how they're going to behave. We're going to work to get some of those posed shots, but we're also going to do some candids. But ultimately, we're going to get some really great shots no matter what. So I just always try to like reassure them of like, hey, everything that you think that you know about how this is going to go, it's not going to go that way. So if you
Yeah,
just let go and not stress about it, it's going to actually turn out better than if you were
definitely.
to try to like put all these expectations
Well,
in your
because a
head about how.
dog feeds off the energy as well, right? Like
Yes,
they're kind of
exactly.
worried about, are we going to get the perfect shot? Are we going to, and I think at least for, you obviously have those people who try to post candid pictures when it's not actually candid. They're like, all right, I'm
Yeah,
over here, but obviously dogs, anything candid is going to be candid. And those are often, what do I know about photography? But I feel like those are often the best pictures when you're not
sometimes,
really
yeah.
trying to make everything perfect. Now, if they're posed
Yeah.
real nice, I mean, that's one thing too. So,
No, for sure. But I think it's like you said, dogs are just going to be dogs, and they're going to have these amazing images of them being themselves. And I think for a pet parent, you would rather have that than a photo of your dog looking miserable and terrified because they're being forced to sit over and over and over and over again. That's just not who they are. They get bored really easily.
absolutely.
There was another point that I had that I totally forgot, but I'm sure it'll come back
Okay.
around
Yeah.
at some
No, I'll
point.
come back and jump anytime. I kind of wanted to explore a little bit with you. So I had talked about before how I just planned on dentistry. That was my plan, and
Yeah,
like, by the time I got to grad school, I was like, I don't love this right now. And but my whole entire college portfolio was all of that. Like I'd done that, and I loved it at the time.
yeah,
And then, basically I'd switch this. I found something dog related, something I can spend time and make people feel secure that their dogs are taken care of, that kind of thing. But at the same time, I have a lot of friends, especially a girl, Riley Shire. She's at UPenn Dental right now, one of my really, really good friends. And she's in dental school now and she's loving it, right? And so, at basically, what I kind of want to say is that if you know, I made this switch, right? And like I don't want to like look down upon because dentistry, same as you, right? With hairdressing, makeup, all that is a really difficult career, and I think a lot of people get fulfillment from that.
hmm,
Same as people get fulfillment from dentistry. And how do you kind of like look at that? And I don't know, you're worried. You're like, I loved it at one time, but like,
yeah.
what if like, okay, I'm doing pet care right now. Oh man, I want to switch something out. That's the whole serial entrepreneur thing. But is there ever kind of a concern where you're like, I didn't really like that before. It didn't feel like something that
Mm,
made me, really, really happy at the end of it.
yeah.
And, do you have those concerns for this? And then also, like, how do you still honor what you used to do? Right. And it's different for
Yeah.
me because I'm not a dentist, but I know way too many dentists and I know way too much about dentistry. Same as that, a bunch about
Yes.
weddings, venues. So how do you kind of honor that and honor the people
Yeah.
still in that while not like, you don't want to, obviously, neither of us are, but you don't want to put that down. They're both awesome. And because those are their own experiences, but how do you kind of manage that and balance that, if that makes sense? I know there's a lot of different questions there, but
No,
hopefully that's a thought that kind of makes sense.
No, definitely. I don't think that there's like anything wrong if you have like a lateral move, like you're moving laterally into a different thing entirely. I think ultimately, again, for me personally, what I realized is that I wasn't feeling fulfilled and I
Sure.
didn't have a purpose and a mission to kind of drive me forward.
Did you feel
Everything
like
felt,
that originally is something I'm curious about. Like, when you first
yeah,
started
but
doing that.
I think yes, but I didn't realize it. I
Okay.
think I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. I can see myself doing this. But I didn't realize that there was always kind of this like constant tug of like, but I'm not really doing anything that's like valuable. I'm not like really
Right.
contributing and giving back to society in any kind of
So
way. And so,
giving back to society and finding a way is was the important thing for you. While
yes.
in your previous job, because lots of people still do that now and they find that, very valuable and they really enjoy what they do. But in that specific line of work, it was basically like, I don't feel like I have the time or the, maybe opportunity to give back
Mhm.
to my community. Would that be a fair analysis?
Yeah, I think so. And I think maybe again back at the time I just don't think I knew what it was that I was searching for. And I so you were kind of asking me about like if I'm worried that I'm going to feel that way about this. And I
Hmm.
think what's different about Five Freedoms Photography is that my name of my business is derived from rescue, from animal rescue. And my goal has always been to help as many dogs as possible. That is my number one mission in my business, to impact as many homeless animals as possible, specifically dogs, more so dogs. Although I do,
I'm
do
biased
fundraisers
as
for
well. You don't have to explain it to me. I like
no, but
dogs
I mean,
way better.
I work with rescues that also like rescue cats and little critters and other
Yeah.
creatures as well. So primarily dogs, and that's my main focus. And so I think whenever I'm feeling a little like overwhelmed about the
Mhm.
business side of things, I just lean into, okay, what can I do this week to help a dog? Or what, when can I get to the shelter and how can I go or photograph a foster dog? Or, what's my next fundraiser going to be? And I kind of just
Yes.
realign with that mission of like, I started this thing to give back and help my community and to make the world a little bit better for animals here in North Carolina. And so if I'm not doing that, then something needs to kind of like readjust and reshift so I can get back to that. Because I mean, as you know, I'm sure with sometimes taking clients and taking high volumes of clients can be a little exhausting because you're constantly under the pressure to like perform and do that service. But there is also a really important point in any business to one reflect. You have to have time kind of inwardly to reflect on like where am I going with this, but also the giving back piece of like how am I contributing to something greater in my business. So those are like I think sort of the three pillars of your business is like actual business, the inward reflection, and then also the giving back piece.
Definitely.
So that's what I'm hoping that will continue to sustain me. I think in this business. I think there were two prongs to your question, and I forgot what the second prong was, but hopefully that answered the first part.
Yeah, no, I mean that did, and I think I was just kind of curious about how do you, still honor and
Yes.
appreciate what you had done previously, right? Because I don't want to, for me, like I said, I don't want to look back to college and make, man, everything was a waste. Like I did this thing called
Yeah.
the Forsyth County Dental Drive, where I like went to different dentists or my church growing up, and then the YMCA and collected a bunch of dental tools or not tools, but like toothbrushes, mouthwash, all
Yeah.
that, and then donated it to a community care center. And so I can look back and be like, oh man, like all doing that, like that was nothing dog related. I'm doing that now, but now when I'm doing, starting Wagworks Cares and hopefully like being the president of philanthropy, that's great. Like either way, you look back and you appreciate what you've learned, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So it's, for you,
Yes.
how do you look back and appreciate the past? And
Yeah, and and I have many friends who are still in the wedding industry, still in the entertainment industry, and so like I have such respect for them for being like having that longevity in their
yeah,
careers.
yeah,
Number one. And number two, I think for me also, like you're looking back and you're like, okay, this was such a big chunk of my life. I went through a lot of different hardships and difficulties as a business
mhm,
owner, as growing a business. I made a lot of mistakes. I also had a lot of successes and exciting things as well. So I think it's not necessarily like that you're like you were saying, looking down on it. I think it's important to say, okay, that was a piece of my life and that was a period of time where like I needed to grow through some things. I needed to go through things to grow through things. And a
exactly.
lot of what I learned in that business, I actually have already applied to my current business where like I'm way better about like knowing when a client's not a good fit for me. I'm way better about firing a client if like there's some red flags or I'm getting treated poorly, or I'm way more stringent with my policies of like, hey, this X, Y, and Z needs to happen. And I think I wouldn't have been as strong with all of that had I not learned and made all these mistakes previously. So I
Yeah.
don't think it's ever that you're like letting go of it. I think it's always a part of your story and a part of who you are, even if you're just kind of making a lateral shift into something entirely different.
Yeah, it is. And I think being able to learn from the past and, look forward to the future is hard. I feel like oftentimes with business, but just in general life, at least I found myself like, worrying about the past or sitting there anxious about the future when like, especially in the pet and dog industry specifically, like this is awesome. Like you wake up in the morning and I
Yeah.
got two, they're sitting over there sleeping right now, but Theo and Gus just come cuddle me. Or like when you're taking those pictures, you have those interactions and it just
Hmm.
brings such positivity. It
Yeah.
definitely is a different kind of industry in that sense. And I'd say too, like earlier on for me, when I was thinking dentistry, I would always have, some people being like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And I always took that as a like, "Oh, you don't think I can." But then when you take
Mm,
that shift of like you actually make the shift into what is making me happy currently, you're
yeah.
like all those people. And I don't know if you've had a similar situation to that. People kind of saying, "Hey, is this what you want to do all the time?" Or you know what I mean, that kind of thing. And
Oh,
it's
yes.
hard. It's hard to take it. I mean, that just comes with growth and maturity, and I'm far from that. I'm still 23. So, but I'd like to hear a little bit about that experience for you, and how do you take that when someone comes in and you're running this business or you're have this plan, and then they're kind of like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" How do you spin that into a positive? And then looking back later, look at you now.
Yeah, no, I think I have always known myself very well, and I've always known that I can do whatever I put my mind to. And I both in both businesses that I've owned, hair and makeup and or pet photography, I mean, I definitely have had people that were like, what are you doing? Like, how are you going to support yourself? Is this something that you want to do? This is such a niche industry. Like, what, like, it doesn't, what? Pet photography? What is that? Take photos of people's pets. But then I think just through time and through just showing people, like, hey, this is really what I'm doing and what I want to do. It's amazing how the opinions change because it used to be like, oh, you want to do pet photography? What's that? That's weird. Okay, is that a real job? To now, like, oh, my, sister is a pet photographer, and this is a
Right.
calendar
And then
that she
also like those
photographed.
same
And
people are like, actually, I know someone who needs that right now. I know who to
yes,
talk to.
or yes, exactly that. And people will be like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I have a friend whose dog is a senior, and I'd love to refer you to them, and that kind of thing. So I think the perspective shifts both if you believe it and also if you just continue to do it. And like, don't, I always, there's a quote that I learned a long time ago is like, I don't take criticism from people who've never constructed anything. And it's
Hmm.
essentially just saying that, like, people are going to have their opinions about something no matter what, but you know what you want, and you know like the goal that you're working towards. And so as long as you just keep going and just kind of like put your blinders on, focus on that, and just everything will fall into place.
Yeah. And ultimately too, like you're the one, you know what I mean? Sure, people are married, they have boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever, but you're the one who wakes up yourself in bed every day and goes to work, right? You're in your own
Hmm.
you have to process what's going on in your brain and, continue to find happiness in what you do, and that's not on
That's right.
anyone else. So, keeping
Yeah.
that in mind, that again, I'm not great at that. But I don't know. It's definitely good to think about, and I think being able to be confident what you're doing the whole time is that's awesome. That is
Well, it's not all the time, but it's,
sure,
I think it's a learned art too. I think it's like, I think as you do something, you become more confident in
sure,
it. I don't think that you start with the confidence because certainly when I
right,
first started doing pet photography, they say ignorance is bliss. And I was like, oh, my work is so good. And
right.
then now I look back at a photo that I took and I'm like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh, it's out of focus. What was I
yeah,
doing? The lighting is all wrong.
yeah.
So I think you gain confidence through doing it, through growing, through learning, and just continuing to like level up your craft.
Exactly. And yeah, yeah. All the time is probably incorrect, but I think just being confident consistently and growing with that confidence can really, it makes a difference. People are attracted to that as well.
They are, yeah, for sure.
We have about 5 minutes or so, so I wanted to switch gears a little bit. I know you've
Yeah.
raised almost $78,000 for different rescue groups in the Raleigh
Yes.
area. Do you want to talk a little bit about, maybe, I'm going to hit you with a couple questions. That's what I like to do. But
No, it's all good. It's
do
all good.
you,
Yeah.
talk a little bit about, what different groups you've worked with, why that's important to you, and kind of what's next.
Gosh, oh my gosh. Okay.
It's a lot. That's
Well,
a lot right there.
there's a
You can
lot.
answer
There's a
any of them. You
lot.
don't have to remember all of them.
Well, I actually have worked with, so unfortunately, Raleigh and the Triangle area, and actually across North Carolina, has a tremendous number of rescue groups, both for companion animals, dogs and cats, but also for like farm animals and other critters and things.
Hmm.
So I have just through way of working with dogs and cats, I mean, I've probably worked with like 32 different rescue groups across the Triangle,
Wow.
just photographing dogs that, need a little bit of extra marketing through photography. And my goal with doing, so I typically host like fundraisers throughout the year. I also donate a certain portion of my client sales back to a rescue of choice each quarter. I give random donations throughout the year to causes that might need, a little extra money. So through all of that, since 2021, yeah, we're close to over, I think I just crested over $78,000 for
So,
rescues across the
so
triangle.
great. Good. That is fantastic. That
That's
is
a lot of
amazing.
money. That is a
Sometimes you
lot of
gotta slow
money.
down a second too and be like, all right, we've really
Yeah.
started something, you know, like on
Yes.
you've maintained your same goal from the get-go, right? You've built
Yeah.
your business by, I don't want to say by accident, but that wasn't the intention from the get-go, right? And now you have
Yeah.
that, but it's awesome that you're not just like, well, I'm gonna go be, only take pictures of dogs and not do that. You're still sticking with it, not only with your time, but also with your profits, which is incredible.
Yeah. No, and I love it. I love it so much. And I think that what rescues need more than anything is money and funding. And I mean, some of these animals come into rescue that are, I mean, extreme medical cases. They're emaciated. They maybe have gotten hit by a car. They're covered in fleas. I mean, you know this, you know the stories. You've heard the stories, and so like they need the money, and some of these animals are really expensive. And I think more so when they have the funding that they need, they can pull more animals, and when they can pull more animals, less animals are being euthanized in the shelter system. So it's kind of like
Exactly.
a full circle kind of thing. And then the photos, I do a lot of rescue photography. I go to the shelter almost every week and I offer a foster photo day initiative every month. And just through, I think, the rescues having really nice photos to help promote these animals. I mean, I just had a story I'll share really quickly. There was a dog that had been in foster with a local shelter for like 13 months. Adorable bulldog, brindle bulldog, super cute, named Jive. Had no interest, none whatsoever. I took his photos. He had full of personality. So they posted him on Nextdoor. He was adopted the next day.
That's
And it was
awesome.
like just by
That's
way
that
of
feels good.
somebody
That
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 does feel
feels
good.
good to do. Like, oh, you have to be able to, I don't know, appreciate those wins, and like you
Yes.
having the ability and giving that effort is absolutely again just incredible, and that's something to be really proud of. And the fact
Thank
that
you.
you're able to keep doing that again and again, it makes a difference.
It does. Sorry, my dog is she's hardcore sleeping. So if you hear some squealing, she's
Oh, you're
like
good.
doing the chasing the squirrels,
You're
her feet
good.
are going.
Yeah.
No, so I'm really proud of what Five Freedoms has been able to accomplish in just a few years, and I'm really super excited to see like everything that I continue to do, and as I continue to evolve in business over the next however long I will be doing this.
Who knows? Who knows? We're about to hit a minute. If you would like to maybe share a little bit about like, people in the Raleigh area, how do they book you? Or maybe there's some
Yeah.
up and coming rescues if you want to give a little spiel about that real quick.
Yeah, you guys can find me online. I mean, it's Five Freedoms with an S, photography.com. I'm on all the social media at Five Freedoms Photography. If you're a rescue anywhere across North Carolina and you have fosters or animals that need photos, feel free to reach out to me. I travel to rural shelters as well and offer my services that way. So it's just about people reaching out, letting me know that they need help, and I'm happy to help where I can. And that's pretty much, yeah. Or if you want to book me, all my information is just right on my website, and I'd be happy to chat more about you and your pets for a photo shoot.
I love it. Well, Joanne, I really appreciate your time and thank you so much for coming on. All
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
right, sounds good. Bye bye.